Hi everyone, welcome back to Mission 1820 and this week's episode of Have You Ever Wondered? If you're just joining us, we're in a series called Books of the Bible, and we've been giving introductions into each book of the Bible in just 5 minutes or less. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this week's book. This week we're actually in the Gospel of John. This is the fourth book of the New Testament, and it's the most theological of the other four Gospels. Now, while the other three Gospels was portraying Jesus as the King, the servant, and the Son of Man, John is portraying Jesus as the Son of God. John stated this theme more clearly, really, than any of the other Gospel writers, because John wrote so that his readers might believe that Jesus is the Christ and he's the Son of God, that they may have life in his name. Now, much like the other Gospels, John does come to us as an anonymous book, but tradition does agree that the author was John the Apostle and that he did, in fact, write the book while he was in Ephesus sometime around AD 66 to AD 98. As for the key people in this book, you're going to read about Jesus, you're going to read about the Apostle John, John the Baptist, and you'll read about Lazarus. There's a bunch of key events, but to name a few, you're going to read about the 7 I am statements and the 7 miracles of Jesus. You'll read about the upper room discourse with his disciples, and you'll read about that story of the adulterous woman. The Gospel contains 21 chapters, and we've broken it down into 5 parts. Part 1 is the incarnation of the Son of God. This is in chapter 1, verse 1 to chapter 1, verse 18. Part 2 is the presentation of the Son of God. This is in chapter 1, verse 19 through the end of chapter 4. Part 3 is the opposition to the Son of God. This is in chapters 5 through 12. Part 4 is the preparation of the disciples in chapters 13 through 17. And then part 5 is the crucifixion and the resurrection of the Son of God in chapters 18 through 21. The fact that John's Gospel is significantly different from the Synoptic Gospels, well, that's been noticed from the earliest days of church history because it's probable that John wrote his book after the Synoptics had already been completed and that he was well aware of those other books. If that is indeed the case, then John wrote his gospel in order to supplement the Synoptics and to provide a more theological interpretation of the person and work of Jesus to his Hellenistic audience. See, John's gospel presents his readers with a portrait by identifying Jesus as the light of the world as well as the good shepherd. John gave his audience accessible ways to begin thinking about who Jesus is, while also inviting them to go deeper so that they would continue growing in their understanding of who Jesus is and what it means to be related to God through him. The purpose of John's gospel is that people might have faith, and faith is a relationship of trust in God and in Jesus. See, people were created for a relationship with God. And as John tells his story of Jesus, he does it in such compelling ways that it helps to bring people into that relationship. So why is John's gospel so important for us? Well, the Gospel of John invites believers into a deeper, more contemplative relationship with Jesus. It actually challenges the readers to see beyond the historical events of Jesus' life and to see the eternal truths that they actually reveal. The Gospel's emphasis on love, truth, and the indwelling presence of God through the Holy Spirit, well, that encourages a transformative faith that impacts every aspect of a believer's life. See, John's message is clear that Jesus is not just a man, but he is the eternal Son of God. So with that, I hope this introduction is going to help get you started in the Gospel of John. So God bless, and thanks for watching.